Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Myers fan, and today with me I have a very special guest. She is the star of Halloween 4 and 5. Please welcome Ellie Cornell. Ellie, how are you?
I'm great, Darnell. Thank you for asking me for an interview. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for giving me one. It's so nice to meet you. As I told you before we recorded this, I watched you last night in Halloween 4 and 5, and by the time I got to 5 and I saw you sitting there in that chair dead, I was like, I wonder what it's like to be dead. What can you tell us? What is it like to be dead, Ellie? What's that?
Okay, when I did Halloween 4, the only reason I agreed to do 4 was I really liked the script. I thought it was smart. I think horror fans are highly intelligent, and if you dumb down to them, they don't respond positively to it. So I signed up happily for Halloween 4, did it with Dwight Little and, of course, Danielle Harris. It was an amazing experience from start to go, start to finish. It was awesome. Okay, so then I knew, since Rachel Carruthers lived all through 4, when I got the script for Halloween 5, I knew it was just a matter of time which page her death was going to be on. You're just kind of flipping through looking for it, because it's part of the horror film formula. So my character dies 12 minutes into Halloween 5. It wasn't the script that I would have written, but that's what it was, and they agreed to change it for me because I didn't like the way Rachel was taken out. So they simplified it, and we shot it, and and they brought me back just to sit in the attic very still.
Yeah, so tell us, how did you even get into acting?
I have been an actor my whole life. I started in theater, graduated with a degree, and right after I graduated college, I saved up enough to move to New York. I was lucky enough to get an agent. Simultaneously, I was studying Shakespeare, of all things, and my agent sent me from New York to Los Angeles for 6 weeks for what's known as pilot season, where you go out on a ton of auditions, which I did, and that's when I got Halloween 4. So it happened quickly in terms of, working on Halloween 4. Danielle and I think it was a 40-day total shoot day, and I think we probably worked 39 of the 40 days. So for an actor, especially young and relatively inexperienced actors, it was boot camp, and we learned so much in a short amount of time, and they took extremely good care of us. The producers, Mustafa Kyles, I mean, it's a class act, They did a really... we made a really cool film, I thought. I thought Dwight Little did a fantastic job directing. I mean, think about how much horror films have changed at this point. It's so much grittier.
It's funny you should say that, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to interject for a second here, if you don't mind. That's actually one of my questions at the bottom of the list. I was literally going to ask you about that. What do you think the difference is between yesterday's horror and today's horror? So that's really eerie that you brought that up.
Well, I mean, maybe you can answer it better than I, but I suspect that we have to keep pushing the envelope, or that the producers feel like they need to keep pushing the envelope into crazier and crazier. Right after Halloween came out, Friday the 13th was right there with it, and then Nightmare on Elm Street, and even that pushed it a little bit, the Freddy Krueger character. And then we get into the Saw series, then it gets even crazier. I think part of the reason I'm proud of Halloween 4 and 5 is that it was kind of the last of its kind, although you have the new Jamie Lee Curtis version, which I haven't seen, but I'm sure it's along the same, I'm sure it has the same integrity. It's just a much simpler way of telling a story. you don't have to show the audience everything. We can imagine what it's like to be chased by someone or up on a roof trying to save your little sister. Like,
yeah.
It's part of the human experience. We get it. You don't have to, you don't have to saw off someone's arm for us to feel scared. You know
Definitely.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. And my next question for you is, when you read for the role of Rachel, what did you think of her? What did you think of the character?
Oh, I thought she was great because so often in the horror genre, there are types. There's always the sexy girl, the girl next door. I just thought she was well written, and you kind of got behind her. Like you wanted her to win. And I think if characters aren't well drawn enough, you don't get behind them, you don't care about them, and it's just a question of, like, you don't care about them, you don't care if they're killed off. But I feel like with Rachel, she was, kind of a normal girl with normal concerns about dating, and, her boyfriend Brady going after the sexy girl. Like, that's something audiences can relate to.
I hated that. I hated when he did that.
What's weird is that, and I don't know if it's public knowledge or not, but right after I did Halloween with Sasha Jensen, we did another movie together. I can't remember which came first. I think Halloween came first, but producers saw it and liked it so much together that we got cast in an ABC after school special. I mean, what are the chances?
No, that's cool.
Yeah. He was awesome to work with, and so was Kathleen Kinmont,
Oh my goodness, Kathleen. You know what? Every time I see that scene with you two in the kitchen, I just take my fist and I ball it up and I just get so angry,
Yeah, she's great too, though. She is a smart lady, and that was really fun. We had a blast doing that whole sequence in the house. It was just really cool.
That darn Kathleen Kinmont.
Cops do it by the book. That's what her t-shirt says.
Yeah, that's right. So, was there ever a time when you considered backing out of 4 or 5? Like, did you ever say, I don't want to do this?
Yeah, I did as soon as I read the script for Halloween 5, Rachel was supposed to get scissors shoved down her throat, and I just thought it was undignified,
Mm-hmm.
It was too campy, too graphic. And of course I was in control of the situation because they couldn't do a sequence without my character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they went back to the drawing board and rewrote it, and it was fine. I didn't love the experience like I did with Halloween 4, but you don't always get as lucky as we did. So
I thought
it's just a different style.
I thought you guys did a fantastic job. Quite frankly, I don't know how you were up there on that roof like that. I would have been peeing and pooping the whole time I was up there,
Yeah, and it was they had built that outside of Salt Lake City where we shot Halloween 4. But it was an actual set. Like we were well off the ground. It wasn't like it was flat on the ground. So it was very challenging, and it was cold, and that was my last night on the shoot. So it was it was poignant saying goodbye to everybody.
Well, how did it even come into existence? Like, do you know the story? Like, how did they in other words, what I'm asking is, how did Halloween 4 come about for you? Like, how did that become a part of your life? Did they call you?
I auditioned with the rest of the world.
Okay.
And then, that was on a Friday, I think they said, like hypothetically, if I read for it on Tuesday, they said, we want to put you on camera on Friday with Alan B. McElroy, who was the writer,
mm-hmm.
and Dwight Little, and I think the writer liked my vocal quality, which I thought was interesting. And I just read, I didn't even know this at the time, but apparently Dwight wanted to hire me, and he had to talk Mustafa Kyles. He had to talk the producers into getting behind me in the character. Like, I just assumed I was their first choice, but I wasn't. So I got really lucky that the director went to bat for me.
Yeah, and see, I love that you keep talking about Mustafa because he is such an inspiration to me. I've decided to dedicate my YouTube channel to his memory. I tell everybody that, from now on, I'm dedicating it to people like Mustafa Akkad and yourself, because you guys are such an inspiration to me.
Thank you. I had the distinctive honor of speaking at his funeral, which I couldn't believe they asked me to do that. That was really an honor in the biggest way. Yeah, he was wonderful. We were so lucky. I mean, the more I read about stuff that goes on, like, you just realize what a great experience it was, and it's all about who's in charge, because it's a trickle down effect,
Yeah.
We were just treated so well. Yeah.
Well,
I never take that for granted.
I definitely cried when I got the news. So if I cried, I know you cried because
yeah, it was really sad. It's devastating.
And the way the news was broken to me wasn't even done in a regular way. And this is what happens when you let family break the news to you. They just say it like it's nothing. Like, my cousin came over and he says, D, because everybody calls me D for short. He says, D, Mustafa Akkad is dead, just like that. Like,
oh.
And I was like, what? It was a bit of a delayed reaction. I was just laying there one night, and then all of a sudden it just all came out.
Yeah, I think it's like that when you lose someone big, it's just, I don't know, it's part of the human experience. That was really, really sad. I'm glad Malik, his son, has carried on. Like, have you seen the one with Jamie Lee Curtis, the one that just came out?
Oh my goodness, yes, I have.
Is it awesome?
Well, if I'm being honest with you, I didn't care for it. I preferred the older stuff, your guys' stuff, and I'm not just saying that because you're on here. I really mean that. Everybody knows that I'm a fan of the classic vibe. I like that classic feel that we got with Mustafa and Dwight and Alan B. McElroy and
yep.
So that's what I like. I don't like this new stuff where all this blood and gut. You don't need all that Rob Zombie stuff, and it's not a knock at Rob Zombie or anybody else, but you don't need all that stuff. I just like the classic feel.
Me too, and I think it's because it reminds me of like Hitchcock or the Twilight Zone.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan.
Yeah, me too. I'm psyched for the new one.
Oh yeah, definitely. You're gonna like that.
With Jordan Peele, I think it's brilliant.
My next question for you is, what was the most interesting thing that happened to you on the set of 4 or 5, whichever one? Was there something interesting that happened there?
Probably okay, I'll give you probably 3. Obviously, the first one was how lucky I was to work with Donald Pleasance.
Oh, definitely.
The night that I slid on the nail on the rooftop.
Ouch! I remember that.
Yep. I mean, it sounds like my intestines were hanging out. It wasn't that bad, but we were so pumped with adrenaline that it's like you don't really stop and go, okay, probably get the medic over here just to take a look at this. It's just like one of those freaky things. The third one, what was it? Okay, the third one was one of the coolest sequences. And have you seen Us?
I've seen most of it. Like at the end, I sort of turned it off, but.
Okay, there's a scene in This Is Us. And I said to my cousin, who I was sitting with last week in Manhattan watching it, I said that they so ripped that off of Halloween 4. That whole sequence in the truck where I think they hit one of the zombies. Anyway, it just reminded me so much of the truck sequence that we did. So, in the truck scene when Michael Myers rams his head against the windshield, right? And I realize he's on top of the truck.
Yeah.
And then I, slam on the brakes. He goes flying, and I say, "Die, you son of a bitch!" And I hit him.
Mm-hmm.
The coolest thing about that sequence is that there was a short moment in time where I was actually driving the truck, but most of the interiors of the truck, we were standing still, and the prop guys had 2x4 boards under the truck, and they were jumping on it to make it look like we were moving, looking like we were bumping along.
Yeah, so you weren't actually moving?
No, in a big part of it. Okay, so then there's that piece, and then there's the scene where the guy literally gets his head ripped off.
Mm-hmm.
That was all done with CGI. So you think, this is preposterous. So Danielle and I were reacting to nothing,
I think you did great.
Thank you, but it just goes to show, like when I took my agent to see the premiere in Westwood in Los Angeles, and the line is around the block, and we were like, what are you guys waiting for? And they were like, Halloween 4. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So cool. But you see all the elements come together. The music, the computer-generated images. It's just amazing to me, the magic of the movies, where it all comes together. And it makes sequential sense.
That's the thing. It's like, again, I'm not trying to take a knock at anyone. It's just that on my YouTube channel, I'm known for speaking my mind, and I have to say that this is better than what they have today. It's not a knock at anyone. I just like that classic feel. Even with Halloween 6, I know you weren't in 6, but they still had the classic vibe going. But today, it's just not like that anymore.
Yeah.
So I have to.
Who knows? Maybe we'll go back to it.
Yeah, maybe so, and maybe you can come back and do something and help them out. Rachel can come back from the dead. Michael Myers has done it plenty of times. Why can't Rachel?
That's true. That's true.
But what was it like working with a child actor? Was it difficult?
We got along from the go. Like, we had instant chemistry. Danielle was very precocious, but in the best way. She was very disciplined and not entitled in any way, shape, or form. We got along very well. I think her mom was a little, obviously very protective of Danielle, so she was on the scene a lot, but it's understandable because Danielle was in so many of the scenes, but it was really, really great to work with her. I mean, I think we could have faked the chemistry if it wasn't there, but it sure makes it easy when I felt protective of her like I was her sister,
And you did such a great job, because I like how you kept comforting her. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Keeps hugging her and shielding her from the boogeyman and all that, that. I just thought you did a very good job.
Thank you, but it's a feeling we can all relate to.
Definitely.
Deep down, I think people are really good people, and I feel like that component is completely left out of the horror genre. It's all about the kill, and it's like you want to pull your audience in.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching you last night. I really did. You and Danielle were great, but you guys did absolutely wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
And my next question is, what was Donald Pleasance like?
He was extremely funny, great sense of humor. He stayed at a different hotel, so we didn't have much contact with him unless we were shooting scenes with him. But he was extremely professional. He would nail his blocking every time. He knew all his lines going in, But the thing about him, which was so great, is that I think sometimes when big actors do a relatively easy project, it seems like they're phoning it in. But he seemed committed. Or at least he made us feel like he was committed to the project. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lovely, sweet guy. kind of soft-spoken and a great sense of humor.
Well, you've sort of stayed away from it since 1989. I mean, it's been a long time now. Is there anything that you could do to possibly come back? Have you called Malik? What's going on?
I probably, I've seen him a couple times. I don't think that there's a way that my character could come back that would make any sense. I've gone on to do other projects, but I'm not sure it would be in the Halloween franchise. Like, sometimes it's kind of better left where it is.
Could you possibly come back and do something behind the scenes? Like, maybe you could write a Halloween film, or...
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have a really full and busy life, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I feel like if the opportunity knocks, I would certainly pay attention, but we'll see. We'll see.
Because I would love to see you back in any capacity. Any way you could come back, I would love it.
Oh, I appreciate that, Danielle.
I really would. I'm a huge fan, so...
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
If you could describe Michael Myers for us in one word, what would that word be?
Oh my goodness. Only one word?
Well, I have to make it, dramatic for the audience. I'll tell you what, I'll give you more than one. Since it's you get more than one.
Okay, so here's the thing. It depends on who's playing him, but when George Wilbur and Don Shanks, they're big guys. So, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but, physically he's a large guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes intimidating in itself. So I would say large, like he's larger than life.
Oh, okay? Definitely.
Indestructible. That would be my word for Michael Myers.
Yeah. Have you seen the other films, like, 1 through 8, or have you only seen your films?
I've seen, that's a great question. I've seen 1, I've seen 3, which was off the plot line,
Mm-hmm.
And so when they called me up for 4, I'm like, I don't know. It seems, until I read the script, I really wasn't interested. And then I read the script, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. This is smart, I've seen part of one of the Rob Zombies.
Oh, boy.
Really dark. Very stylistic, and I've not seen the new Jamie Lee Curtis, but I sure would like to.
Really?
I mean, I think...
Really?
See, if it were me as a producer, I would have brought Rachel back, even just for a cameo.
Exactly.
Like, that was a nutty, I don't know, that's like a no-brainer. Like, why not,
Right, and again, I think, this is not a knock at anybody, but I have to say, I think it should be you. You should be here.
I suspect that, maybe Jamie Lee Curtis is protective of her version of the Halloween, since she started it all. She hit it out of the park with that first one.
Yes, she did.
So iconic.
She did indeed. And I don't doubt that, and I don't knock that, and I would love to interview her as well. But I don't take away, the credit where it's due. You guys were like a little family, and I keep saying this in all of my YouTube videos. You guys really looked like you cared about each other. You all looked like a little family, and I'm not just talking about 4 and 5. I'm talking about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. H2O was a little different. Resurrection was iffy. But 2 through 6...
Well, you really know your stuff.
Yeah, I'm the Michael Myers fanatic,
Okay, so if I see one, which should it be? Which one should I watch?
Oh my goodness. I would have to recommend I want to recommend I'll recommend Halloween. As hard as it is going to be for me to say this, see H2O. I want you to see H2O because everyone loves that one, and they say Jamie Lee Curtis, she did her thing in that one, and I mean, she did kick his ass, with the axe and everything, and she yelled his name, Michael, and I didn't like it too much, but you might enjoy it because it's got a whole female thing going on there, so.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Let me go down to my next question, and I want to thank you again for being here.
My pleasure.
Such a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
My next question is, do you still keep in touch with any of the cast at all?
Yes, I've seen various cast members over the years. Once in a while, I'll do a convention, but rarely. But I've done several as a favor, and we run into each other then, and we're all just as thrilled to see each other now as we did then. It's really, really fun to see everyone. Oddly, Danielle and I have run into each other several times completely randomly.
Wow.
Which is so weird. Like, I saw her walking into an LA Lakers game. Like, out of the millions of people, she crosses my path. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah. I think, if you don't mind me saying so, I think a good thing for you might be a podcast. Like, maybe you could start your own podcast or your own web show, some kind of internet show. I think that's
interesting.
Yeah, I think that might be good for you because you seem so well versed in the horror community. So you seem to know your stuff. So, you might want to give that a try.
All right. Duly noted. Thank you.
My next question would be, if you could return to the series, even though we've already went over this, but if you could return to the series, what way would it be in? Like, would it be behind the camera? What would you like to do?
Probably do something with Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe direct, but I would love to do a cameo with Danielle.
Yeah, again, I'm thinking maybe a teacher, like maybe you could play a teacher or something.
Yeah, exactly. Something good, like, it's hard to explain, but in a weird way, I really respect my character, so I don't want her to, like, she's kind of the good girl, so I would want to keep it in those terms. Like, yeah, a teacher would be perfect.
Yeah.
Or even a nurse, like someone that's, kind of good.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I thought, by the way, you were terrific on the commentary track when they kept asking you questions and you said, shouldn't we know this stuff? And you just started laughing.
Yeah.
It's like, how come she doesn't know her own movie? What's going on with that?
I know.
That was hilarious. I like that.
Oh, good. I haven't actually heard it. I'll have to go listen to it.
And then here is the question that I mentioned earlier. What would you say the biggest difference between today's horror and yesterday's horror is? Like,
I think today's horror is about shock value.
I agree with that.
I think it's less about the words and more about the action. And I just know, like, as an audience member, like, okay, did you ever see the M. Night Shyamalan movie called, what was the name of it? About the alien. Shoot.
Was it Signs?
Yeah, Signs, thank you. Okay,
yeah.
Yes. So, I was scared out of my mind when you think that there might be an alien in the pantry.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of see it, but you don't. Well, your imagination fills in all the blanks.
I agree.
As soon as they showed the alien standing there in the living room, I was like, oh. You know what I mean? Like, so my point is, the more you allow the audience to build it in their minds without showing them, I just think the more fun it is. Like, that's when the the frights happen.
It's funny you should say that. And again, I'm sorry for cutting you off. I'm just so excited. I got to get these thoughts out. I can't believe I'm talking to you. But I was actually recording a video the other night where I was talking about the TV show Boy Meets World, because I review TV shows and everything like that. And I said Boy Meets World has everything in it. It has comedy, horror, and there were a couple of times where it reminded me of Twilight Zone.
Right.
Because like they had an episode where Mr. Feeney, where Corey thought Mr. Feeney was dead and he was dreaming and he felt guilty and all that. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because you mentioned theater of the mind.
Yes.
When I said out loud the words Twilight Zone, I kept looking behind me. You know, I'm looking because I was like, is there somebody behind me? Is somebody watching me? Are the doppelgangers from Us? Are they going to jump out and kill me? Like, you know.
Yeah.
So it's your mind. You're right. And when you feel like you're not in control, that's when you really feel vulnerable. Like last night with Halloween 4 and 5.
Yeah.
You know, where Danielle Harris was just lying there in the grass, essentially waiting for Michael Myers to come and kill her before Wendy Kaplan, steps in and, takes the bullet, so to speak. So,
right.
I totally understand where you're coming from.
But I think there should be a sense of fun. Like, I know it's horror, but it's just entertainment, you know, and like, I don't know, this stuff these days is it's just dark. I'm not accustomed to it, and I'm not drawn to it personally.
Well, I'll say this much: when I watched Halloween 5 and they kept playing that silly music with the cops and yeah. You know, those
cops were
unbelievable. Right, and you run out the house, Mr. Cornish, and that was great. That was a little bit of a comic relief there. And one of the cops says, "Well," he says, "somebody could be dead right now." And the other guy says, "Well, fortunately, we're lousy cops."
Right.
So,
I think that's why Get Out and Us have done so well for Jordan Peele, is because they're extremely intelligent.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of layers there. There's substance to it. It's not just, gratuitous violence.
The third episode of Twilight Zone is kind of controversial, and that one is about the racist police officer. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
I haven't seen it. I just read an article about it, though.
That was, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a black guy, but that was my favorite one.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
I really like that one. Have you met Jordan? Have you met him?
No, I haven't. But boy, I sure love his work.
Oh my goodness, I wish I could meet that guy. Oh.
Yeah. No, I think it's so cool. I mean, he's hitting it out of the park. I just love it. I'm really happy for him. Like, the world needs stuff like that, where it's, I don't know. It's funny because when we were leaving Us last week, this older gentleman walked up to us and said, "Was that the worst thing you've ever seen?" And we just started laughing. We're like, wait, what? Like, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but...
I wouldn't say it's the worst. I definitely had a problem understanding it.
Oh, yeah.
But I wouldn't...
It makes you, like... I don't think he does things that aren't deliberate, so it makes me want to understand it better. Yeah,
definitely. It definitely does.
I thought Get Out was tremendous. I don't know. I love that kind of stuff where anything could happen anytime. Like when they hit the deer. I mean, I thought I was going to jump out of my skin.
And see, this is why you should be more active in the horror community. This is why Malika Akkad should be calling you. Because you're so well versed in this stuff, you know your stuff. I feel comfortable talking with you. I don't feel like I have to be all uptight, and you just make me feel like I could be myself. And I think
good. Thanks, Danielle.
I think it's really cool when I meet a chick that likes horror movies. So
I like some. I don't like them all, but I do
That's
like some.
okay. That's all right. How are you about Friday the 13th? Do you like that one?
I like the first one. It's funny. I think when I was reading for Halloween, I was also up for the lead in Nightmare on Elm Street. I think it was funny. They were both kind of neck and neck. Yeah, I'm not that familiar with it. But yeah, they sure have stayed popular. I mean, it's kind of a classic. It's weird.
Have you ever dreamt about Michael Myers? I mean,
no.
Okay, I had to ask.
I know, that's a good question. No, the thing, I mean, actors are all different, but the way I approach the work is I don't bring it home. You know what I mean? And I don't bring my own experiences to the character, so it's nice. It's kind of compartmentalized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically all I have written
All right.
here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Is
Good
there
luck with your podcast? I mean, your show, your YouTube thing.
Thank you very much. Is there anything that you would like to promote before you go, or anything you want to say to the audience?
I have a film coming out. I think it's supposed to be out in 2019. It's called Alter Rock. Just keep an eye out for it. I have a kick-ass fight scene in it.
Okay, I'll definitely look out for that.
I don't win the fight. Spoiler alert, but
oh,
I give
man.
the guy one heck of a fight.
Yeah, you clearly didn't win the fight with Michael Myers either. What happened?
Yeah, but she went down fighting.
That's true. She definitely did.
She
Ellie,
definitely wasn't wimpy.
I want to thank you so much, Ellie, for being here today.
My pleasure. Good luck to you, Darnell.
It really meant a lot to me. Ladies and gentlemen, Ellie Cornell. Ellie, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Take good care.
All right. Thank you again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Ellie Cornell from Halloween 4 and 5. I want to thank you guys for listening. I'm the Michael Myers fanatic. I approve this message.